2 teenagers, 3 homemade bombs, and a chilling plan to bring a mass casualty nightmare right to the doorstep of the New York City mayor.
Yeah, it is a truly terrifying scenario.
It really is. So on March 7th, 2026, an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old drove all the way from Pennsylvania to Manhattan. They parked near Gracie Mansion, and they walked straight into this politically charged protest carrying improvised explosive devices.
Right.
And their goal, they wanted to kill up to 60 people and mathematically outdo the deadly 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. So they threw the bombs, but the devices actually failed to detonate.
Thank goodness.
Seriously. Police tackled the teens immediately and uncovered just this terrifying trail of evidence. We're talking dashcam audio plotting the attack, a handwritten notebook of bomb recipes, and a storage unit filled with explosive residue and an ISIS martyrdom note.
Just a massive amount of evidence.
Exactly. So today on this deep dive, we are exploring how 2 teenagers with 0 criminal records built weapons of mass destruction, the chilling digital evidence they left behind, and the terrifying lone actor paradox that honestly keeps counterterrorism experts awake at night.
Yeah, and before we really get into it, I think we need to set the scene a bit because it's important. Gracie Mansion was surrounded that afternoon by this really tense mix of right-wing, anti-Muslim protesters and then a group of counter-protesters.
Right, a very volatile mix.
Exactly. And I want to be super clear here for everyone listening. We are strictly looking at the cold, hard facts of the security failure today. We are entirely ignoring the politics of those demonstrating groups. We take absolutely no sides, and we don't endorse the viewpoints of anyone at that protest.
Oh, absolutely. We're just reporting the facts of the attempted bombing as they happened.
Right. But it is crucial to understand how chaotic that environment was. A really loud, unpredictable street protest. It just provides the perfect ambient noise and, visual cover for an attacker to slip in totally unnoticed.
So the environment itself is kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them.
Oh, for sure.
Before we can understand the twisted psychology behind all of this, we first really need to look at the chaotic reality of how the attack actually unfolded on the ground.
Yeah. Let's break down that timeline. So it's March 7th, 2026. They are outside Gracie Mansion, which is the residence of NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani, though he wasn't actually home at the time.
Okay, good to know.
Right. And the scene is basically 2 opposing groups. You've got about 20 protesters led by a far-right activist named Jake Lang, and they're holding this Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City rally. And then there are roughly 120 counter-protesters facing off of them.
So it's loud, it's chaotic, and then these 2 suspects, 18-year-old Emir Balat and 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi, they walk right into that chaos.
Yeah, they drove up from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And at about 12:15 p.m., Balat pulls out this glass jar, and it's wrapped in black duct tape. Inside, it is packed with explosives, nuts, bolts, and screws, basically designed to act as shrapnel.
Ugh, that's horrific.
It is. So Balat lights the fuse, and he throws it underhand directly at the anti-Muslim protesters. The jar flies through the air, it hits a metal barrier, falls to the ground, and just starts smoking.
And the bystanders, they must have seen the spark, right?
Oh, yeah. They see it, they brace for the shockwave, but the explosion it never comes. The device basically just fizzles out and emits a small cloud of smoke.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because it sounds like a movie scene where the bomb timer just miraculously stops at 1 second.
Yeah, it really does.
If these guys spent so much time meticulously planning this, why did the bombs just fizzle out? Did law enforcement sabotage them beforehand with, a jammer? Or did they just totally mess up the recipe?
It was entirely a failure of construction.
Yeah.
So no proactive police disruption at all. Building homemade explosives involves 2 different challenges. First, synthesizing the chemical payload. And second, engineering the ignition sequence.
Okay, so the chemicals in the trigger.
Exactly. The chemical payload they built was completely viable. It would have worked. But the ignition sequence, transferring the heat from a burning fuse into a primary charge to create an instant detonation instead of just a fire, it's incredibly delicate.
So they just got the math wrong on the fuse.
Basically, a millimeter of dead space in the fuse housing or even a tiny amount of moisture can break the whole chain reaction. So the fuse burned, but the thermal transfer to the main explosive just failed.
Wow, so that margin of error is razor thin. So what happens next? Balat realizes the first bomb is a dud, right?
Right. So he grabs a second explosive device from Kayumi, lights it, drops it right near a group of responding NYPD officers, and then tries to sprint away.
Oh my gosh, dropping it right next to the police.
Yeah. And this is the moment where pure luck really intersects with incredible training. The NYPD officers on the scene, they did not hesitate at all. They moved immediately toward the threat. They tackled Balat to the pavement and subdued Kayumi just moments later.
That is incredible bravery.
It really is.
Yeah.
They saved potentially dozens of lives. And police later found a third explosive device in their parked car.
Which is terrifying, because if the ignition sequence on that second device had been built with just a fraction more precision, we would be talking about a mass casualty event with dozens of fatalities, including those officers.
Absolutely.
So since the bombs failed mechanically, the physical damage was thankfully zero. Nobody was hurt.
Right.
But to really grasp the true scale of the danger here, we have to look at what they intended to happen. And that brings us directly to the chilling evidence left inside their vehicle.
Yeah, the car is where this gets even darker. They left it parked a few blocks away, and investigators found a dashboard camera that was recording audio and video of their entire morning drive from Pennsylvania.
Wow, so they basically recorded their own plot.
They did. The dashcam audio gives you this real-time psychological profile. You hear them driving up the interstate, presumably passing regular commuters and families, while Kayumi states out loud, and this is a quote, "All I know is I want to start terror, bro." And he explicitly says he wants to, quote, petrify these people.
That's just so cold. It's like this macabre road trip.
Yeah, there was a really cold, calculated math happening in that car. Balat is actually recorded doing the tactical arithmetic out loud. He estimates the blast radius and says the bombs will kill about 8 to 16 people.
Just throwing numbers around like it's nothing.
Exactly. And then he quickly adjusts his math, noting that if the crowd is dense enough, it could be up to 60 casualties. They're treating human lives like variables in an equation.
It's horrifying. Did they have a specific person in mind?
They had a specific target, someone they called Individual 1, who they were trying to track using social media geolocation. But Balat clarifies on the audio that they are hitting, quote, the government and civilians also.
So basically anyone in the way.
Right. And then he walks Kayumi through the exact deployment strategy. He coaches him on waiting for a 3-2-1 countdown, executing an underhand throw to keep the device at foot level.
Wait, foot level, why?
To maximize shrapnel damage to the lower extremities. And then they plan to sprint back to the car together.
The level of operational planning here moves this so far beyond just, like, generalized teenage anger. And they had a notebook too, right?
Yeah, police found a handwritten notebook in the car. And this wasn't a diary. It was a full-on terrorist manual.
Jeez.
It contained exact step-by-step recipes for synthesizing explosives. It had a logistical shopping list for shrapnel things like aluminum cans and boxes of bolts.
So they had a whole playbook.
They did. And it even had backup plans. If the bomb plot failed, they had plans to use a heavy, fast vehicle to ram into soft targets like shopping centers, festivals, or parades.
Okay, I have to push back a little here, because it's one thing for teenagers to talk tough in a car or even write stuff down, but they actually built these weapons. How does an 18-year-old get their hands on bomb-making materials without setting off massive red flags?
That is the big question. It comes down to the specific explosive they used. They synthesized TATP, which stands for triacetone triperoxide. In counterterrorism circles, it's known as the mother of Satan.
The mother of Satan. That sounds intense.
It is extremely volatile, super sensitive to friction and heat. It's actually the exact same explosive used in the 2015 Paris attacks.
Okay, but again, how do you just buy the ingredients for that? Do you get it on the dark web?
No, that's the scariest part. You buy it at the local store. Their shopping list was just everyday items.
Yeah.
They bought 12% hydrogen peroxide, sulfuric acid, and acetone. And they bought the fuses from a standard fireworks store.
Wait, really? Just normal stores?
Just regular retail shops in Pennsylvania. They took all of this to a public storage unit they rented in Langhorne, PA. They basically turned it into a makeshift laboratory. Yeah. When police searched it, they found syringes, digital scales, empty chemical bottles, and explosive residue just covering the surfaces.
And didn't they find a note there too?
They did. They found a handwritten note pledging allegiance to ISIS, basically telling infidels to die in their rage.
So we have two teenagers with zero criminal background turning a suburban storage unit into a chemical weapons lab. And they radicalized with terrifying speed.
Incredible speed.
Nah.
Both teens confessed to being inspired by ISIS. Kayumi said his radicalization happened directly on his smartphone. He was just consuming ISIS propaganda videos online.
Just scrolling his phone.
Exactly. And Balat was so influenced by this digital space that he wanted his attack to be deadlier than the Boston Marathon bombing. He actually dismissed Boston because it caused, in his words, only 3 deaths.
Oh my God. To look at a mass casualty event that traumatized an entire city and view it purely as a high score you want to beat, it's sickening.
It really is. Authorities are also investigating a trip Balat took to Istanbul in 2025 to see if he met with any actual ISIS affiliates. But for Kayumi, this pipeline from normal teenager to attempted mass murderer was entirely digital.
And this brings us to what you mentioned earlier, this huge blind spot in modern
Right.
intelligence.
The lone actor detection paradox. Because these teens radicalized online and didn't really communicate with known terrorist networks, intelligence agencies had absolutely no signals to intercept.
It's like a virus mutating in total isolation. I mean, if the internet algorithm is just feeding them this propaganda and they can build bombs using everyday chemicals from the hardware store, aren't we basically looking for a needle in a stack of needles?
That's a great way to put it.
How can law enforcement possibly stop a threat they can't even see forming? Like, why aren't we tracking the chemicals? We track cold medicine at pharmacies to stop people from making meth. Why not track the bomb stuff?
Because the precursors for TATP are foundational chemicals in everyday life. Acetone is nail polish remover. High concentration hydrogen peroxide is used in hair bleaching. Sulfuric acid is just drain cleaner.
So if you put a tracking algorithm on those,
You just flag every single hair salon, auto body shop, and pool maintenance company in the country. The noise-to-signal ratio is astronomical. You'd overwhelm law enforcement with millions of false positives.
so there really is no network to track.
Exactly. Traditional counterterrorism relies on tracking money or intercepted chatter between a recruiter and a recruit. But here, there is no recruiter. Buying $40 worth of hair bleach doesn't trigger a financial flag. It's spontaneous combustion.
Spontaneous combustion, that is, wow. So the digital feed heats them up in total isolation until they just ignite?
Yep. The threat forms entirely in a closed loop between the user's brain and their smartphone screen.
To recap the staggering reality for you listening, we have 2 teenagers who absorbed radical propaganda online. They built volatile explosives out of beauty supplies. They drove across state lines, and they attempted to murder dozens of innocent people. And they were only stopped by their own bad craftsmanship and the incredibly fast response of the NYPD.
It really connects to the modern reality we're all living in. I mean, radicalization no longer requires traveling to some training camp overseas. It's happening right now on smartphones, in suburban bedrooms. It makes critical thinking and just community awareness more vital than ever for all of us.
Absolutely, and it leaves you with a really chilling question to ponder. If social media algorithms already know exactly what consumer products we want to buy, just based on how long we look at a picture, how long until terrorist organizations use artificial intelligence to perfectly tailor their radical propaganda to the specific vulnerabilities of every lonely teenager on the internet?
It's a terrifying thought.
It really is something we all need to stay vigilant about. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.